Sir, this document is a forgery. We don't launder junk paper at Try and Trust. The bank teller's words, dripping with dismissive contempt, ripped the tense silence of the bustling lobby. Before the stunned man could respond, a quick, brutal motion tore the paper to shreds. For neat pieces of a United States Treasury check, a federal document, fluttered like defeated flags onto the gleaming granite counter. A decorated Marine veteran stood frozen, his quiet dignity momentarily eclipsed by the public humiliation. The snickers and audible murmurs from nearby customers of the Try and Trust Bank's flagship Newport branch stung worse than any combat wound. Yet, he didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He simply reached into the inner pocket of his worn but clean jacket, pulled out a satellite phone, a secure device no civilian would carry, dialed a single, cryptic number, and waited. Minutes later, the street outside was choked. Black, unmarked SUVs with tinted windows mounted the curb. Uniformed federal marshals and men in tailored dark suits flooded the branch. The air crackled with a sudden, irreversible shift in power. Because the man they had just tried to shame wasn't there to deposit a check. He was there to execute a covert, high-stakes operational audit of the entire financial institution. The fluorescent lights in Try and Trust flickered over the sleek, ultramodern lobby, a monument to capital and cold efficiency. Behind the counter, Tessa Vance, a teller barely out of college, leaned back, her air of bored superiority unshakable until her next customer stepped up. He moved with an unhurried, almost predatory calm. His posture was ramrod straight, the kind you only earn after decades under heavy weight. His name was Colonel Elias Thorne, a recently retired special operations officer. He placed a folded, official government envelope on the counter. "Good morning," Colonel Thorne said, his voice a low, steady rumble. "I'd like to process this check. It's for a full disbursement." Tessa didn't even meet his gaze. She scanned the check with a proprietary sniff. The amount, $47,500. Source, she drawled, the U.S. Department of Defense. Final severance and disability. Now, Tessa looked up, her expression a careful blend of suspicion and condescension. A military payout, then? For what exactly? A boo-boo. Colonel Thorne's eyes, the color of cold steel, never wavered. "I served 28 years. Multiple deployments. I'm receiving what I'm owed." A cruel little smirk played on Tessa's lips. "Sure you are. Let's see the paperwork, Grandpa." He slid the check toward her. Tessa scrutinized it, holding it up to the light. The paper texture is off, and these signatures, they look digitally imposed. Frankly, these disability fakes are rampant. People try to exploit the system every day. "You are welcome to verify it through the Federal Reserve System," Thorne suggested with unnerving patience. "I can't authorize this deposit," she snapped, pushing the check back with the tip of a manicured finger. "It's fraudulent." "Next in line." "Then you will please return it to me now," Thorne stated, his voice dropping an octave, a subtle intensity that made the air feel thick. Instead, Tessa performed her act of desecration. She tore the check in half, then again, reducing the Treasury document to 4 meaningless scraps. "There," she declared, brushing her hands together as if expelling dirt. "Fraud neutralized. Problem solved." A collective gasp swept through the affluent clientele. "You have just intentionally destroyed a federal government document," Colonel Thorne said quietly, his gaze locked on the scattered pieces. "A fake federal document," Tessa corrected, crossing her arms, a triumphant arrogance hardening her features. "I'm not risking my job on a blatant scam." The branch manager, Devin Hastings, a man whose chief skill was avoiding responsibility, rushed over. "What is the meaning of this commotion?" "This man is attempting to deposit a fake check, Mr. Hastings," Tessa announced proudly. Devin assessed Thorne. The plain clothing, the quiet demeanor, the lack of visible wealth. "Sir, we take fraud extremely seriously. You'll need to step away from the counter while we call the authorities." Colonel Thorne, finally, checked his watch. He pulled out the secure phone and dialed. "This is Colonel Thorne at the Newport branch of Try and Trust," he said simply. He paused, listening to the voice on the other end. "Affirmative. The test is complete. Proceed with the protocol." He hung up, the calm before a financial storm. Within moments, the heavy black SUVs descended. The first person through the door was a woman in a stark black suit, her badge bearing the insignia of the Federal Reserve Bank's Compliance Division. "This institution is under immediate administrative lockdown," the woman announced, her voice booming. "Everyone, remain at your station." Devin Hastings stammered. "Lockdown? What in the world is going on?" The compliance officer turned to Colonel Thorne and gave a sharp, formal nod. Colonel Thorne, we have the audio and video logs. Thank you for your service. Devon's eyes bulged. Colonel? Wait, you called them. The officer opened her file. Colonel Elias Thorne is not a customer, Mr. Hastings. He is the Chief Risk and Integrity Officer for the entire holding company of Trident Trust National Bank. He was here today on a covert, executive-mandated audit of frontline operational conduct, specifically regarding prejudice, discrimination, and adherence to federal protocol. Tessa's face went white, her jaw slack. Colonel Thorne finally spoke, his voice ice-cold. I was sent to see if your employees would treat a veteran, a person they perceived as low value, with basic dignity and respect. You failed the test spectacularly. You did not think. You judged, and you destroyed a legal document in the process. Mr. Hastings, the branch manager, materialized from his office, drenched in sweat. Colonel, sir, please. This has to be a simple miscommunication. We had no idea. The disrespect was public, Thorne countered, his gaze sweeping over the silent, watching customers. The correction will be public. The compliance officer gestured to the federal marshals. By corporate and federal mandate, the employees involved in the act of discrimination and destruction of federal property are relieved of duty, pending a full criminal and internal investigation. Tessa's composure shattered. Wait, please. I didn't mean, it was just a misunderstanding. Colonel Thorne's tone remained firm, absolute. You meant every word. That is precisely why this matters. As Tessa and Devon were escorted out, the lobby erupted in a wave of applause. Later that afternoon, Colonel Thorne sat at the head of a massive mahogany table in the downtown corporate boardroom. Across from him, the CEO and the entire executive team looked pale, their panic barely concealed. The footage is viral, Colonel, the PR director whispered, running a nervous hand through his hair. Outrage is global. The bank stock is already volatile. Thorne nodded once. Good. Pressure reveals integrity. Now we rebuild it. The CEO cleared his throat. Colonel, what is your command? What must we do? Thorne turned, looking out the window at the gleaming cityscape, a vast, intricate system of people and transactions. Apologize to the public sincerely, but pay her final salary, so she knows that even the contemptuous are treated with fairness, he commanded. Then we implement the Dignity Protocol, effective immediately. The Dignity Protocol, the CEO asked, his voice shaking. A top-to-bottom reform system, Thorne stated, leaning forward. Every employee from the teller line to this boardroom will undergo mandatory bias and integrity training. From this day forward, promotion will be based on how you treat people, not how much you sell them. Every customer is to be treated as a valuable human account, regardless of their apparent wealth, background, or social standing. The next morning, Trident Trust released a statement that shocked the financial world. Our Chief Risk and Integrity Officer, Colonel Elias Thorne, initiated an internal audit that revealed unacceptable, discriminatory behavior. Effective immediately, the Dignity Protocol will redefine how we serve every customer with equality, integrity, and absolute respect. The video of the incident, now a global phenomenon, was shared under the simple hashtag respect is the real currency. Weeks later, the Newport branch reopened under a new, less pretentious banner, featuring a simple, powerful slogan. Every account is human. Colonel Thorne visited the branch one last time. He stood in the lobby, watching a new, young teller greet an elderly man, not with skepticism, but with a warm, respectful handshake. He smiled, a genuine, hard-earned smile. Respect, he whispered to himself, his voice echoing with the truth of his long service, is the only currency that never loses its value.